Have you ever lived through a night so strange, so terrifying, that it never truly ended? A night that stayed with you, whispering in your ears every time the lights went out. I have 3 Halloween nights, to be exact. 3 nights that changed everything I thought I knew about what's real and what isn't. And by the end of this story, I want you to tell me, was it all in my head? Or did something truly follow me? The first night still lives somewhere in the back of my mind. I was in college back then, young, overconfident, and the kind of guy who loved to laugh off ghost stories. So when my friends said we should spend Halloween night in an abandoned hospital that was supposedly haunted, I laughed and said, "Ghosts aren't real, man. Let's do it." That hospital was about 30 minutes outside town, surrounded by overgrown weeds and rusting gates. It had been shut down for years after a fire broke out, killing several patients inside. People said that sometimes, even now, you could hear screams echoing from inside when the wind blew just right. We were 5 people, me, Daniel, Sam, Priya, and Mike. We carried flashlights, candles, and our phones to record everything. It was supposed to be fun, like one of those viral exploring haunted places videos. But what happened inside wasn't fun. It wasn't something I could ever forget. The moment we pushed open the gate, it gave this high-pitched metallic creak, like something alive protesting our presence. Inside, the corridors were pitch dark. Paint peeled off the walls in long, curling sheets. Every step echoed, bouncing down empty halls. We found a few rusted hospital beds, overturned chairs, and shattered glass everywhere. I kept joking to keep the mood light. "If any ghost is here," I shouted, "we come in peace." Everyone laughed, everyone except Sam. He looked tense, like he was listening to something. But before I could say anything, a sudden gust of wind blew out all our candles at once. It wasn't just a breeze, it felt heavy, like the air itself moved. Then, somewhere down the hall, a door slammed shut. Everyone froze. Daniel said, "Probably the wind." But my gut twisted. I felt watched. Still, trying to prove I wasn't scared, I went to check the door that had slammed. It was labeled "Burn Unit." The letters were barely visible through years of grime. Inside was silence, thick, suffocating silence. My flashlight beam cut through the dust, landing on black burn marks along the walls. Then, right above the marks, something caught my eye. Faint scratches, like someone had clawed at the wall. And between those scratches, written in what looked like ash, were the words, "Let us out." I froze. My throat went dry. My flashlight flickered, and for a split second, I saw a shadow in the corner, human, shaped, but wrong. It wasn't cast by anything. There was nothing there that could have made it. "Guys," I called out, but my voice cracked. No answer. I felt something behind me, like a breath against my neck. I turned around, nothing, just darkness. I ran out of that room, my heart slamming against my ribs. Outside, the others laughed, thinking I was faking it for the camera. But that shadow, I can still see it when I close my eyes. And for nights after that, I would wake up and swear I saw that same shape standing by my bedroom wall. I told myself it was just stress. I was wrong. 3 years later came the second night, a different city, a new job, and a life far away from that old group of friends. I'd moved on, or thought I had. It was Halloween again. I was working late, and by the time I got home, the streets were empty. My building's elevator was broken, so I took the stairs. When I reached my floor, I was about to unlock my apartment when I heard it. "Ahmet." Someone whispered my name. I froze. The hallway was dark. I looked around, nothing. Just that faint hum of the building's old lights. I shook it off and unlocked the door. Inside, everything was normal, quiet, peaceful. I poured a glass of water and went to the kitchen. That's when I noticed something strange. On the side of the refrigerator, drawn into the thin layer of condensation, were the words, "Welcome back." I stared at it for a long second, then wiped it off with my sleeve. My rational brain told me it must have been some leftover mark, or maybe I'd written it and forgotten. But before I could convince myself, the lights flickered once, twice, and then the whole apartment went dark. Complete silence. Then that same voice again, closer this time, almost beside my ear. "Ahmad, did you forget us?" I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and shouted, "Who's there?" No answer, but from the kitchen I heard a soft scrape, like someone dragging a finger across the tiles. I moved slowly, light shaking in my hand, and pushed open the kitchen door. It was empty. Then I looked at the small mirror I kept above the fridge. My reflection wasn't there. Instead, there was another face staring back, burned, twisted, and smiling. I dropped my phone, screamed, and ran to the living room. The next thing I remember, I was waking up on the floor hours later. The lights were back, the mirror was normal, everything looked untouched, except for one thing, faint, black fingerprints on the kitchen tiles, like something burned had crawled across them. That's when I started to realize maybe the hospital wasn't done with me. So that's where I want you to stop and think, what would you do if that happened to you? Would you tell yourself it's just stress, lack of sleep, imagination playing tricks? Or would you believe something darker was at play? Because at that point, I didn't know anymore. And then came the third night, the one that changed everything, the one that made me pack up and leave that city for good. It was last year's Halloween. I'd promised myself to stay home, no parties, no exploring haunted places, no weird adventures. Just movies and a quiet night. Around midnight, I heard a knock at the door, soft, rhythmic, 3 times. I wasn't expecting anyone. I looked through the peephole. Nobody was there. I opened the door anyway and found a pumpkin sitting on the floor. A classic carved Halloween pumpkin, glowing faintly from inside. I chuckled. Must be some neighborhood prank, I thought. I brought it in, set it on the table, and closed the door. But almost immediately, the temperature in the room dropped. My breath came out in mist. The TV turned itself on, just static. And through that static, I heard a whisper. "You invited us in." I froze. The pumpkin's faint glow flickered like a heartbeat. I grabbed the remote and switched off the TV, trying to laugh it off. But then I heard the voice again, behind me this time. "You shouldn't have brought us home." I turned around, and the pumpkin's face had changed. Its carved grin was wider now, sharper. And instead of light inside, there was smoke, thick, dark smoke, pouring out from its eyes and mouth. I panicked, grabbed it, and threw it against the wall. It shattered, and from the pieces, something slid out. A small, old photograph. I picked it up. It was me, a childhood photo of me, smiling in front of my old house. My stomach turned. On the back of the photo, written in that same ash-like handwriting, were 3 words, "We never left." I don't know what happened after that in any clear detail. The lights went out. My phone died. The room felt like it was spinning, the air thick and heavy. And then I saw them, 3 shadows standing in the darkness, one with a burned face, one with hollow eyes, and the third, the same shape from that hospital room years ago. They didn't move. They just stood there, watching me. I screamed, and everything went black. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed. My neighbors told me they'd seen smoke coming out of my apartment and found me unconscious on the floor. The doctor said I must have had some kind of shock. But deep down I knew those things had found me again. And maybe they always would. So those were my 3 Halloweens. 3 nights across years and cities, but somehow They were all connected by something that refused to let me go. Even now, as I tell you this, I can feel the room grow colder. So, tell me, what do you think really happened? Do you believe I'm crazy? Do you think this was all coincidence, or something much darker that science can't explain? Before I tell you my final thought, I want you to pause for a second and drop a comment below. If you were in my place, what would you have done? Would you stay? Would you move? Or would you try to talk to whatever it was that followed me? Because I made my choice. I moved far away, a different country even. No one knows where I live now. Every Halloween, I keep the lights on all night. I don't open the door. I don't look in mirrors. But sometimes, around midnight, I swear I still hear it, that same whisper, soft and patient. Ahmed, we never left. So that's my story. 3 nights that tore my sanity apart and changed how I see the world forever. Maybe it's all in my head. Maybe it's something else. But if you're watching this, remember one thing. Sometimes, what follows us isn't a ghost. Sometimes, it's a memory that refuses to die. If you were on my side through this story, hit the like button. Subscribe for more true stories like this. And tell me in the comments, what do you think really happened to me? Until next time, keep the lights on.